When you find out your baby has a developmental disability, you know he is faced with a lifetime of challenges and struggles. You feel overwhelmed and alone as you do your best to make a life without limits as much as possible for your loved one. At age 22, your child, now a young adult and no longer supported by the public school system, faces a crucial moment. You're left wondering, how will he enter adulthood without falling off the transition cliff?
Nobody signs up for this job like thinking that, oh, I'm trained for it, I know. The most frightening time for all parents, and you are frightened of it from the moment you get the diagnosis for your child, is the moment that they're finished with the school district, because they are the ones that companion you all the way through, and then suddenly they're not going to be there. So your greatest fear is what happens on the day the bus doesn't come. What are we going to do?
The Komen Foundation called together organizations that they had worked with and that they viewed as being true to the mission of social service. They brought us together in late 2008 where there was a broad representation of our organizations, and we then tried to identify some of the most important issues in the field at that time. In order to be able to effectively tackle adult services, we have to, and the needs that are there, we had to make sure that we are entering people into adult services in the best fashion possible, so that's why building bridges was viewed as one of the priorities.
Each of the organizations that's part of Intersect for Ability is one of our grantees, and had been one of our grantees prior to Intersect for Ability being formed. So when we invited the organizations to be part of something that became Intersect, they were trusted organizations to us. They're ones we had provided grants to, we had seen their performance, we had really been impressed by the work that they do. Now we as a funder, we're very interested in that collaboration. That was a more effective way, we felt, for organizations to achieve goals, in working together, in inspiring collaboration, and doing things in partnership that they really couldn't do independently. And Intersect for Ability has been the genesis of a lot of collaborative projects, and the Building Bridges initiative is probably the most successful or the most impactful of those.
I do see families struggle because they're so afraid of not being prepared. Even though we start preparing them at the age 14 and a half, some parents will come to me and say, now what do I do? So fortunately, we're able to hook up with agencies that are supportive of our families, even at the last second. We'll call up Seguin, for example, and have their transition specialist come, and he will work with the families immediately. We'll work on the priority of urgency needs. We'll work on Medicaid, Medicare, and all the information that they need in regard to the transition process.
We really had to learn what was out there to help us. We went to many different transition fairs and seminars and listened to things over and over again to really get a handle on what was in store for us.
She can't develop if she's just sitting at home in front of a laptop all the time. I'm like, she has to get out. She has to go somewhere, you know. And I just couldn't afford to put her in any type of center or adult program.
You know, most people, when they raise their children to a certain point, and then they're thinking, okay, then they're going to support themselves, or at least I can expect them to support themselves. But with us, there's 4 of us in this household that, you know, that are always going to be here. So everything they do from now, and you know, from the time they're small until something happens to Pierre and I, it's and after that we don't even like to think about. But it's going to be expensive, very expensive.
Our objective through building bridges for the future is to assist people, but then also through that assistance is to help fix the system. Because there are more and more folks that are coming out of school right now, that we have a waiting list in the state of Illinois of more than 23,000 individuals waiting for services, sitting at home waiting for services. And we do know, especially with the increased incidence of autism, that the system is going to be challenged even more and more as we go forward.
I absolutely see a dire need for the program like Building Bridges to exist, because without that program there isn't the support that families and students need to continue with their educational or their vocational career upon completing any program within any school district. So it's vital that those programs support the needs of our students so that they are fulfilling their life and they continue to have life's worth. So I think it's absolutely a necessity.
I think it's very unique with every family, of course, because of where they're coming from and what they need. Once you sit down with them, what we like to do is actually present options and not opinions.
Since starting Building Bridges, we've been able to actually have more students transition into Barb Wilson Center of Hope, which is a work program. They're currently in school. They spend half of their day there, and then they spend their other half of the day here with us, learning job skills and getting work training.
I can only hope that everyone that has a special needs child meets and run into someone as nice as Miss Sharon Butterfield from Park Lawn, because she went over and above the call of duty. She didn't have to, and she just wouldn't let me quit.
There's no way I could have done for Caitlin what the transition services have done for her. You know, I couldn't walk in with her to a job interview. You know, that wouldn't give the potential employer the right, you know, picture of how independent Caitlin could be. It was just perfect. It was just relief that everything happened the way it was supposed to happen. She was on her own and she could be independent, and we didn't have to worry about how she was going to spend her days. That she was, you know, not just sitting home in front of a television set. She was out there being productive, and that's what we've always wanted.
I'm not getting any younger. My sisters are older than I am, and I just want to make sure my child is taken care of and not just wasting away in some kind of hospital or center, or, you know. Anyone that has a special needs child needs all the help that they can get. And if the help is out there, apply for it, because we are our children's best advocate. No one's gonna fight, not as hard as we will.
The federal government passed a law dealing with special education, followed in the 80s by mandating some transition services. The problem is that where the laws may exist to help, they're totally underfunded. Without organizations that build this massive consortium of building bridges for the future, we would be falling down in many, many respects. And where the state has not met its obligation, I can say, we have found ourselves with being very blessed to have building bridges for the future. We need to be advocates. We need to be better advocates than we've been in the past, and we need to do a better job in making sure that our legislators, yes, perhaps people that haven't experienced what I did, that is with a young child growing into an adult and transitioning, that educating these legislators on what we can do, what's available to us, and what we must do to provide a better future for those people that are seeking a better life.
The Coleman Foundation got us started. It's worked. Now it's time for you to assist, for all of us to assist, to make sure that this wonderful program continues. It's time for individuals, it's time for corporations, it's time to foundations to step up to the plate to help assure a positive future, not just for a program, but for the individuals and families that it serves. It's important, and the time is now.